Heads up, there will be spoilers for Edge of Extinction, the worst season of all time. Besides On to the Others, the second worst season of all time. We will be spoiling the winner of season 38 in this episode. But here's the good news, folks. That season sucks and you don't need to watch it.
Signed off that all three Castaway Consultants say that this is not must-watch Survivor. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by critiquing current, former players. I am one of your three co-hosts, Derek Kubicek, and today we are going to be looking at Season 50, Episode 8, Double the Fun, Double the Demise. And I'm joined tonight by my two fabulous co-hosts, Ryan Stacy and Josh Wessler. They are Double the Fun, and I'm Double the Scum. I don't know. Thanks for being here, guys.
You're welcome. That was an interesting intro for yourself.
Just self-deprecating. I don't know. I'm going for something. I was trying to find a haiku in there somewhere. Yeah, but I'll save it for the poets. And, you know, speaking of poetry, we'll have some poetry to speak of tonight. There's a lot to talk about. This is a fun episode. And you know what? I feel like with our history in discussing big twists, our listeners might not actually expect the answer that I'm going to give tonight for how I felt about this. So
yeah, let's get into spoilers.
So we can so we can just talk about this. 3, 2, 1.
Big twist tonight.
Big twist where two people go home, a duo, and they had to sort themselves into these pairs ahead of time. So before we get into the episode proper, let us as a trio here just litigate this twist really quickly. How do you guys feel about it? Josh, how do you feel?
I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I feel about the twist. And I was pretty skeptical throughout the episode. And once we found out what it actually was going to be, and I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about it. I'm hoping that it's going to be a lot better after talking through everything. But my one big holdup with this twist is that it just feels unnatural when it comes to Survivor, because two people are being tied together and your fate is being directly linked to the person next to you who you are paired with going into the immunity challenge. So I do think that this is something that is fun and entertaining. I'll just have to figure out, you know, down the line whether or not it's something that feels right for Survivor. So to be determined.
I think I enjoyed it. I think I'm pro this twist, and I wouldn't mind seeing it again. It's fun. It's interesting. It was fair in terms of like, hey, this is laid out. Now go. This isn't like a situation where it's like, it's not like Edge of Extinction where it was a surprise. You know, it is a surprise, but like Edge of Extinction was a surprise later. Like the twist was happening, and then it came back, and oh my gosh, here's a curveball. All the players were on equal footing, I guess is how I would put it. There's still a vote. There's still ways to play this, and it's interesting to watch. And my big thing with twists is, A, think them through. Survivor. Always think them through. What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? Best case scenario, you get some fun TV. Worst case scenario, you lose two big names in one go. But there's a lot of, you know, big names on this season. So think it through, first of all. Secondly, you know, you can try whatever, but once it's done, have a meeting and see if it actually worked. And if it worked, great, do it again. If not, don't do it again. That's all I ask. I don't know if they thought it through. I don't know. You know, who knows with production? I don't. But I felt like this worked, and I would be open to seeing it again.
I agree. I'm very high on what I saw, and Ryan and I kind of decided this separately from one another. We didn't really talk about it in the moment, so there's no groupthink going on here. We are unlikely to see it again in this format unless we have another really big season where we have maybe multiple multi-votes, but we can certainly see a variation where you end up in a duo and maybe for a double boot instead of a split tribal at a merge, two people go home like this again. So there are ways to see it come back, and I would take it back in some form or fashion. And like Ryan said, he already laid it out perfectly. As long as the castaways are educated ahead of time and the way that they get there is reasonably fair. They all got to pick their partners.
Reasonably fair. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. And that's all we can hope for in a game that honestly is reasonably fair, like at best. So I thought that it was well executed. And then I thought that the result was not one that, you know, breaks the game, but it keeps it interesting. It keeps it fresh. So I really liked it. So production who listens and doesn't hate our guts yet, good job on this one. I like this one.
Honestly, if we're doing this or splitting the group into two groups of 5 and voting out 2 people, I almost think I prefer this. This is, you know, everyone's still here. Everyone's still playing together. It's just a wrinkle. I think if I had to choose gun to my head, I think I would choose this.
Yeah, and maybe next time, instead of dividing into duos, because all future castaways, you need to be thinking about
Yep.
this. Maybe the production has them draw rocks instead, colored rocks.
Or,
and
I kind of like what they've done before in the past. We've gotten similar things to this in the past where it's like you need to divide yourselves up. Some people talk it out. Some people draw rocks. I like the idea of leaving it up to, like, hey, here's some rocks if you'd like to do it that way. Otherwise, you can come to a decision yourselves.
Now, one thing Ryan and I did talk about that I wanted to get onto the podcast, we actually felt like this was the biggest twist of the season so far.
This is bigger than the Blood Moon.
This is more like this is closer to like the do or die or the hourglass twists of the new era without all of the bad stuff that comes with those things. And it's not as powerful as those. And it's not as ridiculous. And again, the choice was with the players. The stakes was laid out to the players. So that's the difference. But like this was the biggest twist of the season.
I would say this is the biggest twist Survivor has seen since Do or Die in 41. I think that's because 41 had a doozy of knowledge is power, the hourglass, and then Do or Die, and that's the most recent. So if I'm being linear here, I would say this is the biggest twist since Do or Die in 41. And the social game is more tied to it than something like Do or Die because you have to consider double the social components, that's fun. That's fun. I think that's why this one works. It's because it's a mechanical twist, but it is a social twist. First and foremost, almost.
Yeah. Well, so I think we're at least 2.5 out of 3 on this. So again, good job production. But we lose Chrissy and Coach tonight. We lost 2 people. And they didn't give us the eagle screech on Coach's way out. We did get an eagle screech at one point in the episode. I guess that's the best we're going to get, but I am a little mad about that. I'm glad that Chrissy was able to experience some healing, but I think for the purposes of entertainment for the rest of the stretch, or for the home stretch of this season, this was probably the best result.
I think breaking up this possible, alleged, rumored Zoom alliance, which Coach and Chrissy were both part of, allegedly, breaking that up is the best thing to happen for the season, I think.
Yeah, I'm sad to see Coach go just because it's Coach. But honestly, it seems like the right point for him to go. I kind of think about it a little bit the same way as, what we got with Q earlier in the season. It was, Q has been fun to watch, and he seems to be playing a little bit differently, but he was really dominating the screen time and the edit. So it felt like a good natural time for Q to exit the game and open it up to other players. And I kind of feel the same way with Coach right now. There's still a lot of season left, and Coach has been kind of dominating the last couple of episodes when it comes to just total screen time. So I think this is a good exit point for him, and now we can focus on some other players who might be a little bit more exciting. And then, we have Chrissy, and I'm fine with her. It's whatever.
Speaking of Coach and screen time, congratulations to Benjamin Coach Wade for passing Russell Hands for the second most number of confessionals in the history of Survivor. So now he trails only Boston Rob by about 50 confessionals. So it's not really a close second, but it is second nonetheless. So there is some water held in the bucket that Josh made, the point of the bucket that Josh made there. So I'm still really happy we got Coach, and I think we got enough of Coach as well. I think it was a natural conclusion to his story. And if you want to talk about poetry, the one episode where he's around people, where he chills out and does nothing, is the great send-off that he gets. Like, there is poetry to that. If I were to write a haiku about Coach leaving, it would be that he didn't do anything. He finally, he got the lesson, and now he can walk away from Survivor. He finally learned. Bye-bye. But yeah, you guys ready to get into the episode proper here?
I am.
All right.
Get back to camp, and Jonathan's immediately like, hey, Coach, you should lay low for a while. You should be a background extra for an episode. There's an episode of Community where basically Abed's like, you know what? I had a lot of focus last week. I can hang out, lay low in the background this week. And he's just a background extra for the entire episode. You can see him in the background, just doing his own side adventure, but he's very much in the background. And Jonathan's like, hey, Coach, you should do that.
Coach and Abed in the morning.
Dude, I'd watch that show.
That sounds like a really fun show.
But the plan for the Jonathan, Chrissy, Stephanie, Coach, Joe alliance, they want to take out this middle group of Christian, Devins, Emily, and Aubrey. Those are their 4 they want out next. Ozzy's going to go see Tiffany because Tiffany got 4 votes the last tribal council. Nobody really owns up to who it was at first, but Ozzy's could tell Tiffany, like, hey, I was one of the ones who voted for you. I was just trying to protect my cover with Coach. Here's what I want. I want to work with you. I don't want you gone. I want Coach out. Maybe not right away, but I want him out. And so they are going to patch things up and work together in this episode, and maybe in the future. We'll see if we get if Tiffany can build her way back in. But she makes some really good progress in this episode, I thought, because we're going to get something similar with Joe later on.
The only part about this kind of intro that I wanted to talk about, because we're talking about, Ozzy kind of mending bridges with Tiffany a little bit, and, these middle players versus these other players. I got to admit, as a viewer, I am a little bit confused about who are the wings of all of this, because the people who were saying this were the Zoom Alliance, and then saying that Suri and Ozzy were a part of the Zoom Alliance. So that's like 7 people right there, and then you've got 4 people in the middle. So who does that leave on the other side? Tiffany?
It was them versus Tiffany and Dee. Dee's out. Now it's just Tiffany.
No, I understand that, but like, how can they still call them the whole episode? They're like, these are the middle players. So like, maybe that's just how they classified them.
Teeter-totter.
But it felt strange.
Teeter-totter. You have 7 people on one end of the teeter-totter, 1 person on the other side, 4 people standing in the middle of it. Still the middle.
I get it, but it just feels strange to call it the middle. It's not a normal distribution. And you're right, it doesn't have to be. But as a viewer, it still really confused me. I don't know if anyone else was confused by this.
I really hope it's just you, because this is clear as day to me.
I saw at least one person on the evil social medias who was confused as well.
A boat is going to arrive, and they're like, all right, you guys got to divide into 6 pairs. 1 person's obviously on the outs. We're going to get a few people who want to volunteer to be the person on the outs. Devin, Sari, Chrissy, and Stephanie, we all see a volunteer. But we're going to do another shot in the dark draw. Everyone who wants to be the one person puts their shot in a bag. We draw. Sari is going to be the odd person out. Everyone else has to pair up. So our pairs end up being Jonathan and Christian. Talk about like a David versus Goliath. Jonathan and Christian. Chrissy and Coach, womp womp. Ozzy and Stephanie. Aubrey and Devins, almost womp womp. Joe and Tiffany, Emily and Rizzo. So those are our 6 pairs.
Yeah, and I think that going forward, you will almost always want to be the person who is left out. Whether you're pairing up or if it's volunteering to go off on your own, outside of maybe just the Mystery Adventure Island part of things. If it is, oh no, you're going to be left out of a challenge or a group activity, as we have seen recently, you could just get a get out of jail free card and be immune for the next tribal. There's not really a whole lot of downside here. So going forward, yeah, some bad things could happen, but I would say almost all the time you should be throwing your name into the hat to be picked to potentially just be left out of whatever ends up happening.
I mean, what is the worst that could happen by being the odd person out? You could like lose your shot to compete at the immunity challenge. You could lose your vote. So there's that kind of stuff. Right now, I'd say the benefits outweigh the cons on this one.
I mean, I'd safety without power almost all the way to the end, especially if I'm Suri. Like the path to the end is already dicey. If I get a freebie, I'll take that.
Yep, that's pretty much. But, you can earn the power back, and that's what we're going to find out in this episode.
Safety with maybe power.
With possible power. Chrissy wants Coach to try and make peace with Tiffany. So Coach is going to go over and talk to Tiffany and be like, hey, it wasn't my plan to have you as the backup vote. I was just kind of marshaling it because it was so chaotic, but it was not my idea to put your name out there. And she's like, okay, whose was it? And he just, Hannah Shapiro freezes up and doesn't say anything. All he's going to say is I don't feel comfortable saying that, or just don't have this conversation.
Yeah.
What's the best that can happen here?
I am okay with Coach coming up to Tiffany here. At least you're trying. It would have been very Coach-like to just not do anything here and try to be all honor and integrity. He's trying. Now, he just completely fell flat on his face because he just became unresponsive at some point. You got to say something, man. So kudos for trying, but it's still, Coach is still Coach. And all it took, almost kind of like when he talked to Dee the other episode, all it took was one question to push back on him, and he just didn't know how to handle it. So maybe that just kind of points to who Coach is as a player.
Mm-hmm. I think you could almost say you were tied to the hip with D, and D was considered to be one of the biggest threats in the game, and nobody wanted to bring you in because they knew you were close, so you were the obvious backup vote that time around. That does not mean that we want to vote you out again. And then, she wouldn't know this, but she'd be lucky because Ozzy basically had the same conversation with her. It's a slightly different tone and a little bit earlier, which was good for Ozzy, but just have a plan, coach. Don't just throw Casper under the bus. Like, people can go compare notes. I'm talking about just throwing like a ghost under the bus.
Oh.
Like you need to have something, not just a specter of a thing.
We're going to get to the challenge, and it is the double duo twist or something like that. Double dragon twists. That's a video game reference.
Dancing dragons, who knows?
But one of these pairs is going to win immunity together. One of these pairs is going to get voted out together. You vote as individuals. You play advantages kind of as individuals. You can play an idol, and then it covers both people. You can play your shot in the dark. One of you loses your vote, obviously. It's like, coach is going to do it. Coach loses his vote, and it would cover both you if you're safe. But I would imagine, extra votes and whatnot work as normal. Suri cannot compete, but she cannot be voted out. So she is sent to Exile Island, and everyone else is going to compete with Joe and Tiffany winning immunity. So these two are safe. Every other duo is not.
And for the record, I don't think they would have been in danger this time around anyway. Not the way these duos broke.
The Zoom Alliance would not be up for sacrificing Joe, I don't think. And everybody kind of wants potentially to use Tiffany as a pocket vote.
Mm-hmm.
So before we go any further, I do want to see if you guys think that there is any strategy when it comes to pairing up with people. We've seen pairing happen in a couple of different ways on Survivor. So is there a path that you would take with this? Would you try to partner with someone who you might not necessarily be aligned with? Because in a twist like this now, that might offer you some extra protection because you might not be targeted because they would have to be taking out one of their own. So I just wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, and we have to keep in mind, even if we do the pairing up in the future, doesn't mean we're doing this double duo dragon twist. It could be, what we've seen before, where, hey, two pairs are going to get to the final round and you're going to get split up into individuals. So where Jonathan might be an ally early on in the challenge like that, but then you have to go up against him at the end and Jonathan cleans your clock. Well, was it worth it? No. So yeah, it's a tough balance. You can never really truly predict it, but there is a good idea maybe to pick somebody if there's like two clear alliances, pick someone from the other side. That way you have people protecting you from both ends. So yeah, I do think there is wisdom in picking somebody who isn't your bestie. Like, teacher says you have to make partners in class, find a partner in class. Maybe don't choose your best friend that time. Otherwise, you'll both be out.
I agree with Ryan. I think generally, though, it hasn't changed much. It just adds another fold to think about, because if you pair with someone from your alliance, people might see that as a coconut chop. If you pair with someone who's definitely not in your alliance, they might think that you're trying to get that person out because it'll be a head-to-head challenge. Focus more on the personality characteristics. Someone who's maybe socially connected in ways that you aren't, but maybe not someone who's overtly this huge social threat. Like Caleb Gebrewald, I probably wouldn't want to pair with him because that's always like hey, this is a good chance to get like a twofer out here because everybody loves him. So I think trying to stay under the radar while rounding out your weaknesses and diversifying the threats away is the best thing you can do. Whatever that means to you in your situation, you kind of got to be the judge.
Yeah.
I don't think we can give good advice to you here on that.
Yeah, it's going to vary from season to season for sure. Suri gets to Exile Island, and she has a challenge. There's 2,000 coconuts on the beach. She has to find one with a phoenix design on it. If she succeeds, she gets to go back to the beach. She gets to go to tribal council. She gets to vote. She is still safe. Otherwise, she has to spend the night on exile. She is going to find it, so Suri is back in the game. Heck yes. Love to see it.
And this is important, I think.
Yeah.
I was excited to see Suri get back here with her vote intact because, let's be honest, she's going to be the one that's going to at least kick off driving the vote in a certain direction. And clearly she is the master strategist. I was going to say manipulator, but really strategist when it comes to who everyone is looking at. She's going to hit the beach and all of a sudden people are going to look at her and she's just going to be like, no. Your ideas, this isn't going to work. What you need to do is take out Coach and Chrissy. You can take out the people in the middle later. relax. And everyone just falls in line. They immediately just go, oh, yes, Suri, we will do that. We have a really hard time thinking on our own, but that is okay because you are here to let us know exactly what we need to do. Love that she was able to get her vote back and actually have an influence on this tribal.
So we're going to get lots of strategizing, lots of different thought processes here. But something early on, Emily and Christian point out that Coach, Chrissy, Jonathan, Joe, and Stephanie are an alliance, and we should break them up. And I think that's the most sound piece of logic in this. And Sari's going to say the same thing. In this vote is breaking up that 5. Because they could get a stranglehold on the game. And I think this episode was make or break. Let's say Aubrey and Devin to go home here. It's almost over. Those 5 could take this whole thing at that point. Take them out. And Coach and Chrissy are pillars in that alliance. Take them out. Rizzo and Ozzy, they are going to land on taking out Aubrey and Devins until Sari gets back. It's like, no.
Yeah, I think a conversation that sticks with me, it was Rizzo and Emily in a hammock saying, I think Sari would want us to take out Aubrey and Devins and get some of those middle people out so then we have room to maneuver going forward. Maybe assuming that because Ozzy and Sari are kind of in with the Zoom Alliance, that's what she would want, or maybe that's what Rizzo was just saying to Emily to like placate her and make her feel safe in the moment. I don't know, but in my head I was like, why would Sari ever say that? That doesn't make sense to me at all.
Nope.
And of course, we can trust Sari to see the game clearly. She almost sees it like a viewer does.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. She's like above this.
Yes, it's like she has the ability to zoom out, sit on the couch that she got up off of at home, and be like, "Why wouldn't you take out these 5 pillars strong loyalty people who are never going to break? I can't crack that. I'm next one out if I don't do that." And honestly, she'd have been right, and she is right. So again, I can't say enough good things about Sari's game and why it has legs every time she plays. So I'll just stop there. But yeah, I'm glad Sari's back to talk some sense into the people who really needed it.
So Joe is going to admit to Tiffany that he also voted for her. He promises to never vote for her again. Tiffany reciprocates that she'll never vote for him. And they make an alliance. And they are going to temporarily land on Aubrey and Devins. Tiffany's mind will be changed. And eventually Joe's mind will be changed. We'll get more into that later, though. But that's the crazy part. My favorite part is Chrissy is going to lay down the law on Coach and basically tell him to be quiet and stay in the hammock and don't cause any problems. Go to your hammock and stay there.
Which is a great full circle moment because earlier this season, Coach was telling Chrissy to back off, chill out. Like, if you'd have told me that Coach and Chrissy were going to be linked at the arm and the voting booth this season at the beginning, I guess I would have believed it. But the fact that they have so much symmetry in what happens is genuinely hilarious. Great payoff.
Chrissy pitches, instead of taking out Aubrey and Devin, to take out Rizzo and Emily because she doesn't trust Rizzo and wants him out with an idol in his pocket. It's not really going to go anywhere, but Sari's going to hear about this, tell Rizzo, and that's what's going to get Rizzo on board with this plan.
I was going to say, when Chrissy pitched that, to me, it felt like it was the quote-unquote Zoom Alliance plus Ozzy and Sari casting too wide of a net. So Chrissy, I think, realized that, Chrissy's name and Coach's name were flying out from the people in the middle. But as we've already talked about, like, it's 8 people, 1 person, and then like 3 or 4 people in the middle. So she probably thought like, hey, we actually have some power here to do what we want. And we can do Devins and Aubrey, or we can do Rizzo and Emily. And you know what? If you are 8 strong, I think that Rizzo and Emily would be a better choice for them to take out. Just when you look at the way that they've affected the game and the way they're connected. I understand that like Devins is good at finding idols, but so far Aubrey's been kind of a non-factor. So if you look at it from that lens, I think Chrissy's point makes sense. However, they have mutineers in their midst.
Yep.
Sari is not interested in this, and that's why you can't cast that wide of a net. You need to have a core group of people that you trust above all else. And I think Chrissy made a mistake there.
So the group is pushing Coach and Chrissy at this point. They want to get Joe on board with this plan for some reason. I'm not quite sure why.
Yeah, we never got into why Rizzo, of all people, is like, I need to bring Joe in on this.
Like, I get you want to work with him again, but
I don't know what they're thinking here, cluing in Joe. I know that Rizzo was close to Coach and with Colby and with that entire alliance. So he's wanting to bring Joe in just because he can, I don't know, still potentially work with him in the future. But you really just have to know what Joe's game is and what he's capable of as a player, you have to be realistic with those types of things. And I would hope, apparently this isn't the case, but I would hope that people would see Joe and know, yeah, he's not going to budge on this and potentially screw up your game just because you feel like you want to make something a little bit less messy. Lean into the next vote. I felt like this was just completely unnecessary to do.
Yeah, if anybody in the Zoom Alliance has an idol, now they're playing it because Joe knows. So yeah, I thought that was not the best call, but it worked out. They eventually got him on board. But yeah, just from the get-go, I think it was odd that they wanted to do that. Devins is going to talk to Christian about using the fake idol that they hit at Tribal Council, if necessary. It might be. And it kind of is. But we're going to go to Tribal Council. And Aubrey's going to kick us off. She quotes War Dog from Edge of Extinction, and she's going to say, the twist and the theme are not on trial. And maybe it should be. I hate this. I hate this mentality. War Dog can kick rocks. Aubrey can kick rocks. I don't like this excuse. Like, yeah, the twist and the theme aren't on trial. Maybe they should be, okay? We're not here to let production do whatever they want. Like, yes, you have to roll with the punches and just deal with it on the island. However, you can criticize the twist to Probe's face, and you should. So I don't want Aubrey to win because this is some more of this Edge of Extinction energy. This is why I hate that season so much. Bottom 2 season, no. If the twist is bad, criticize it, and you can criticize people for using said twist in whatever way. All of that is fair game. The twist and the theme are on trial because I say so. This is how we get Chris Underwood as a winner, and nobody wants that.
You know, it is funny that Aubrey opened this old wound. She has no idea. This is like a Drax and a Ronin. Like, I've waited my whole life for this. I have no idea who you are. Because when War Dog talked about it, it was way worse. Because at that point, he was on the jury. He's saying this on the jury, trying to sway people to vote for someone who didn't actually play the game of Survivor. You didn't need to bring this up because all they're doing right now is navigating an in-game twist and on equal footing, no real jury tampering, nothing outside the scope of like a normal game of Survivor. Like, yes, a twist, but at least it's fair and everyone is here and it's in plain view. So I think that this was just a particular wound for Ryan. I don't think that's why she said it, but it is funny that now Ryan is very much on the anti-Aubrey train.
Yeah,
like,
I am.
Thanks for reminding me that you voted for Chris Underwood.
Yep. Anyone who voted for Chris Underwood besides Reem is on my crap list forever at this point, it seems. That season sucks, and that mentality is the main reason that season sucks.
Devins is great on that season.
Devins voted for Gavin.
Yep, Devins.
Everyone who voted for Gavin can come back. And I know we're kind of spoiling Edge of Extinction here. Here's the good news. You don't need to watch that season.
Yeah, that is not must-watch Survivor.
And the second part of that is when we get to the rewind of Edge of Extinction, that it's such a weird season that we're going to be spoiling it from the get-go because we have to effectively talk about it. So that's the good news. Edge of Extinction sucks. Don't watch it. Chris Underwood wins. Let's get into it. Now that I'm done ranting.
Yeah.
Like a madman.
Yeah.
Devins is going to go for the fake idol play. He's going to get up and grab the fake idol and pretend it's a real idol. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, this is amazing, and we've been waiting for it for ever since he hit it at Tribal. You know, it's been teased and we wanted a payoff, and I'm really glad that we ended up getting an actual payoff from this. You know, if I'm going to critique him at all on this, which seems kind of ridiculous, but he really flowed through this quickly. And if I personally would have been him, I might have, rummaged around a little bit, like he had to actually locate it just to take any mystery out of it. Seems like he really just like ripped the rock out and grabbed it. It's like, yep, I got the idol, and then never opened it or read a note or anything like that. So if there was any sort of potential for doubt to creep in, that's really the only place that I could have seen that be possible. But this was just fun.
And they draw maps where they'll circle something on a picture, so I think the way he did it was perfect. Don't give anyone else a chance to find it, and like keep the confusion as high as you can. And that's what he did.
That's key. Everyone was confused. Everyone was scared. And that's how this works. That's how you have to play this, because it has no real power except fear. He causes a lot of whispering, basically a live tribal. I believe this was a live tribal. I think there were going to be more votes for Devin and Aubrey. I still think Coach and Chrissy were going, but I think this scared a couple of votes like Stephanie and Joe onto the majority. So yeah, I don't think it actually changed the real outcome, but I do think this was live. I think it was up in the air, and I think people were talking it out, and I think people were really, really scared.
You know, it's a good time to revisit, and I don't know that we've ever actually defined what a live tribal is. So you guys can correct me if you want, but I'm going to say that I'm going to define a live tribal as any sort of conversation that happens mid-tribal that changes at least one vote. Now, maybe you guys say 2 votes, but like, for the most part, these votes are locked in ahead of time, and if someone goes in and changes their mind because of a conversation at live tribal, I'll call that live tribal, and then maybe a really live tribal is where everything changes.
I think that the definition I think is close to that. I would say a live tribal where it is where the like people stand up and have a conversation, and it knocks the votes into the air. They can come back down and land in the spots they were before, but there has to be like genuine like, oh wait, what's going on? Or should we change it? No. I guess we're not going to change it. The counter example is Heather in 41 tried to do a live tribal, and it just failed. It just went. So Heather's attempt to get up and start whispering to people, it caused some confusion, but it didn't actually like put anything up into the air. We're just like, wait, what is Heather doing? So that would not be a live tribal. It's a live tribal attempt.
And let's remember that just last week, Dee tried this. She tried to start a live tribal and completely failed. There was no discussion. I think she talked to maybe like 1 or 2 people, and clearly no votes ended up changing there. So
yeah, that was an attempt and a failure. This, I do think, was live, and I think it changed a couple of votes.
He wasn't getting up and having a quick conversation with an alliance member. He got up and grabbed an idol.
Yep.
Right? That has to change what you're thinking about. Like, even if you decide, like Ryan says, to come back down, and I like your definition, at least the votes are up in the air. They can come back down, you can catch them, same spot, but you have to at least stop for a second and decide, are we doing the right thing? Am I willing to die on the hill? Like, if this is a fake idol, like, am I willing to die now? Because they hadn't thought that through. They hadn't thought that they were going to have something so visible happen in front of them. So yeah, I think this was live.
And who would have thought that someone would plant a fake idol at Tribal Council? Like, nobody saw that one coming. Great. And you know what? I just love the fact that we got to interview Devins once again. And just like his conversation with us about Edge of Extinction, how he had planted a fake idol in the middle of camp to pull off something similar to this. And obviously he didn't tell us that he was going to do this because, you know, he can't. But the fact that we got to talk to him about this, and then it escalates to planting a fake idol at Tribal Council is just perfect. I'm so glad we got to talk to him. Oh, it's just awesome.
He got to save that move and then make it bigger and badder and better and too much for Chrissy and Coach to handle.
But it's not a real idol, so he can't play it. So he's going to whisper to Aubrey, like, hey, I'm not allowed to play this until the next Tribal Council. You're supposed to be able to sneak it out of here, so it's not actually active, which I thought was pretty good. We'll see what happens with this next time, but I like that lie to Aubrey. And this is fun, because somebody told us that Jeff Probst had said they didn't want to hide anything at Tribal Council because they were worried contestants might tear the set apart. And they didn't. They haven't. But now Devins has. So players might think things will be hidden at Tribal Council, and they might tear the set apart anyway. So now Survivor might have to pivot into just hiding things at Tribal Council because Devins forced them to.
Or Jeff has to come out and say, there are no idols at Tribal Council. Now, that's the less fun route, but equally effective in preventing Tribal from getting torn apart.
I guess turn it into an escape room. You know, just like hide things, make secret panels and stuff like that. Just like full on escape room it. Coach is going to play a shot in the dark, not safe. It is going to be 10 votes for Chrissy and Coach, 1 vote for Rizzo and Emily, 1 vote for Aubrey and Devins. Chrissy voted for Rizzo and Emily. Jonathan is the only person still in the game who voted incorrectly. So yeah, it seems like Stephanie and Joe desperately flipped to join the majority. Smart at that point. I think this is the right move. I think you knock out that pillar of the Zoom Alliance, potential Zoom Alliance, and it really opens the game up. So I like this move a lot.
I need to talk about one aspect of our lank down and our rank down, jank down, dank down right now. Sari was obviously not on the table to vote for tonight. Had she been, It is always the right move, in my opinion, from here on out to vote out Suri. I don't care where you are in your game, how pivotal it is for her to be in your alliance right now. Suri needs to be gone. I just want to say that, but Suri was not on the table today. And with that in mind, and all the pieces that are moving, you need to hamstring the Zoom alliance if you want to have options to open up your game going forward. The only people who that doesn't work for are the 5 people in the Zoom Alliance, and wouldn't you know it, there were 13 people in the game and only 5 confirmed, like in this core 5, I guess. I won't call it the Zoom Alliance, but 5 in this Honor and Integrity Alliance. 8 is more than 5. Chrissy and Coach gotta go.
I think it was, like you were talking about the potential of an alleged Zoom Alliance. It's good to take out that factor right away. We also have this big alliance that potentially could get to the end. And, you know, it's always a threat when a group of people could get to the end together and really stick together, but especially this group. This group is going to be, would have been the Honor and Integrity, and we're all going to stick together until the final 5. So if you let them get too far, they are going to pick you off one by one, and you aren't going to have a chance when it comes to the end. So I really do believe that Suri made the most sense when she was saying that the people in the middle can get taken out whenever. They are going to flip-flop back and forth, and they really have that new era mentality when it comes to who they're willing to take out at what time. So I think that you really can wait on that until a little bit more convenient of a time when there's fewer people left in the game.
Okay. What did social media think?
Yeah, on social media, it looks like we got about 85% of people saying, yes, the right people went home tonight.
With permission from you guys, can I make one more point about on Coach and Chrissy here? At this point in the game, we also need to be thinking about, you know, not only who's in your alliance that opens up the game for you, but who can you beat at the end, especially when you're sending 2 people home. For those of you keeping track, Coach and Chrissy were unanimously in our bottom 5, and then for me and Ryan, I'm pretty sure we had them like at bottom 3. But what's funny is that the only people who this really matters for are like Tiffany and Jonathan and Stephanie and Joe, who are just kind of falling now into the back, most of which who were involved with that same alliance. So it doesn't change the answer at all. The people that they needed to keep around because they were in the alliance were the only people that they could, in theory, on paper, beat right now anyway. So that's not even a factor for most of our other people who are on the side of getting them to go home.
Shall we get into best and worst player of the episode? Derek, kick us off. Who are your best players of the episode? And as a reminder, 2 people went home tonight, so we can do 2 best and 2 worst. Derek, what do you got?
Absolutely. So, Devins, I mean, come on. And Suri, I mean, come on. I will not be adding anything to that.
So I had Devins and Suri here. Devins, it's obvious. He played the idol perfectly. I understand that his threat level might increase from this, but he's in such a tricky spot that it's almost now or never for this idol to come through. I think that the votes were coming their way, him and Osbury's way. We don't know for sure, and we'll probably find out at some point whether or not they would have been going home tonight. But I do think that votes changed enough tonight to save them with this move. So I have to give him one of the best players. And then Suri's the other person, just because of how dominant she was coming to the beach and really directing the vote in the way that she wanted. And it showed that people were just willing to go along with all of it. And so good on her for being able to get her vote back and being able to come back to the beach and have a say in who was going home tonight.
I agreed with Suri, and I gave Devins an honorable mention. I am worried, I'm worried that he may have drawn too much attention to himself. That's the only downside I could see. I gave one because I just thought she improved her spot so much is to Tiffany. She made good possible alliances with Ozzy and Joe. She won immunity, and she was part of this group that take out Coach and Chrissy, and that is great for her. So I gave Devins an honorable mention, but my 2 best were Suri and Tiffany.
I did not hold that against Devins. I thought about threat management the same way you did, but it was kind of a break glass in case of emergency moment. It's not like he wanted to do it. He talked about how he didn't really want to do it. It's more of a last-ditch thing. And so it's like, okay, if you're going to do anything you need to do to stay in the game, you can't really worry about threat management if you're voted out.
Right. I don't blame him, but still honorable mention.
Yep, I get it.
Worst players. Josh, who do you got?
For worst, I had Joe first off, just because he was one where he was on the outside. I know he ended up switching his vote, but he was just so adamant the entire time about not wanting to vote out Coach and Chrissy, and he was really pushing back on the plan when it might have been in his best interest to go with that group. I'm really not sure. Joe's in a really tough spot with who he can beat at the end, but people like Coach and Chrissy are still in the game. He has a better chance of catching up to them versus some of these other people. So I think that he's hurt quite a bit by these two going home. And then I had Jonathan. He was the one person that was left out of the vote, and it just didn't really seem like socially he had a great episode.
I thought Joe ended up having technically a net positive because he won immunity, made an alliance with Tiffany. He did end up in the majority in a weird situation. So I ended up leaving him off the board for this award. And I only gave out one. I only had one person who ended up being net negative. So I only gave one to Jonathan.
I started by giving one to Jonathan, so that's unanimous, obviously, wrong side of the vote. Obviously, getting a little bit snippy with Devins at Tribal Council, didn't love that either. So one goes to Jonathan. I gave the other one to Stephanie, and it's because, she's in the Zoom Alliance, but I agree that Joe had a net positive episode. That puts Joe above Stephanie. I think Stephanie can no longer win the game. She was my third from the bottom before, so now she can no longer win. There's one other person who also can no longer win. We'll get into that in a second.
All right. Let's get into who's going next. This should be interesting. I'll kick us off. This could go a couple of different ways. The person who is next time on Survivor potentially could be Christian because Ozzy called him a robot. So I stayed away from Christian. People could go after Devins, but that whole idol thing makes it tricky. I could see it being like an Aubrey or an Emily. Ultimately, I'm just going to land on Jonathan. I feel like that could be just a safe next move is take out another Zoom person, and he's such a beast. I know he hasn't won any of the individual immunity challenges, but nobody is going to forget Jonathan is here. He's too large of a presence, so I just picked Jonathan.
I had Jonathan as well. I have it as Jonathan is going to be, I think, the most volatile and effectual member left of the Zoom Alliance, Honor and Integrity Alliance. I feel like we might see a little bit of Jonathan backsliding. I don't think he's going to take this vote very well. And maybe he'll surprise me, but I can still see him being volatile, trying to turn things back around, maybe even trying to take out someone like Suri, and Suri being able to at least pull one more over him.
So I do think that Rick playing the idol, even though I do think it was the right move for him to do so at this time, is going to really raise up his threat level. It could be him going next, but I think that it's going to spook people a little bit into his alliance, his duo with Christian. And I think Christian might be the one that is going to take the bullet for this one. They are the two closest, and it's not even really close. It seems like people in this game. And at this point, with only 11 people left, you're going to want to start paying attention to that and splitting up any existing duos. So unfortunately, I'm going to hate to see it once it actually ends up happening, whether it's this week or a different week. But I do think that it's going to be coming for Christian very soon, potentially this next episode.
Okay, well, let's get into the rank downs, jank downs, dank downs, and lank downs. So, we got our listener lank downs from last week. Talk us through them.
Yeah, thank you for everyone who did submit listener Lankdowns last week. It's the biggest collection of Lankdowns that we've ever had. So I'm just going to go ahead and start at the top. And a worthy note is that only one person actually didn't have Suri at number 1. You know who you are. And by the way, I love your methodology. You used a binary matrix. I love that. Please show your work if you want to talk about how you're doing your lank down or your clank down or your hank down or grank down. Suri was pretty much unanimously number 1. Followed by Christian, Rizzo, Ozzy, Devins, Emily, Jonathan, Aubrey, Tiffany, Stephanie, Chrissy, Coach, and Joe, which those bottom 4 matched me and Ryan perfectly, which I thought was pretty funny. So that was the initial lank down.
All right. So let's get into this new week. That was last week. So we moved on. We lose Chrissy and Coach. So we got to adjust. Derek, dank it up.
Yeah. So everything that I said last week, blow it up. Blow it up. I am pulling my one Ryan, because a lot of times my dank down is just pull one out and then just kind of slide them up and then maybe switch one around. Nope, not happening. Cirie is still number 1, and it's not close. But at my number 2 now, I have Devins, because he did something loud. He did something that you can't ignore. And if he makes it to the end now, he's got something fun to talk about. Followed by Rizzo, Christian, Ozzy falling because he has clearly no strategic bone in his body and needs Cirie to do the driving for him. Aubrey, Emily, Jonathan fell pretty far for me here. And then we've got Tiffany, and then my 2 cannot wins, Stephanie and Joe. Stephanie beats Joe in a surprise final 2.
And who's your third from the bottom?
Tiffany.
Okay. All right, Josh, jank it up.
All right. For my jank downs, I really only had one move. And, not going to switch it up a whole lot on my end. With Devin's play, reminder, these are our power rankings, and our power rankings are in this moment if the game ended today. So I have Devin's catapulting up my rankings all the way up to spot number 2. I think that Cirie can beat him, if the game ended today. But after her, I think Devins is right there. Now, I think that this move is going to make it extremely difficult for Devins to get to the end, but that's not what we're talking about right now. So in order, my jank downs are Cirie, followed by Devins, then Christian, Rizzo, Emily, Ozzy, Aubrey, Jonathan, Tiffany, Stephanie, and Joe. And I'm really close to flip-flopping on, Jonathan and Tiffany down there. But Stephanie and Joe at the bottom, they've been my 2 that can't win for a few episodes now. And now that 2 people close in their lines that they potentially could have beaten in the end are gone, I think they're pretty solidly at the bottom, in my opinion.
Okay. I have changed mine multiple times throughout the week. The day after we did this a week ago, I went through it again at work and made a new one, which didn't matter. I kept the original one from the podcast for this week, and then tonight I revised it again, and I'm doing my best to vote count, like specifically which duo. I just did like the final 2s because final 3s are too confusing. If this duo made it to the end, who would vote for who? So I'm vote counting, doing my best. So doing it that way, this is my Ryan's rank down. Cirie at the top, followed by Rizzo, Christian, Ozzy, Devins, Aubrey, Emily, Tiffany, with my final bottom 3 being Stephanie, Jonathan, and Joe. So my 2 cannot win are Jonathan and Joe, with Jonathan beating Joe at a final 2.
Interesting. You're Stephanie above Jonathan now, huh?
Yeah, I feel like Stephanie has a couple of the women on her side who like her, and I don't know how many people actually like Jonathan. I think he has people who are anti him, where I don't know if anybody's anti Stephanie.
Could be.
But you have people like Dee and Tiffany who don't like Jonathan, for example.
Yeah.
But you have someone like Cirie who does like Stephanie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of my thought process. That's where we're at. So get your link downs in. We'll talk about them again next week. Thank you so much. All right. Last thing we got to talk about is the Survivor pool. Josh, take the floor because I don't want it.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm out. We can cut Derek's mic and we can cut my mic. Josh, this is your show now.
Lonely at the top.
Oh, yes, it is time. And I am now going to be swimming all alone. It's so weird here. I have this giant pool that I can swim around in, and there's no one else here. And that's because Ryan is out of the Survivor pool. And that's because he just really felt like he was so confident that in the next time on Survivor, we have Hubicki's theory, we have Hubicki's law, blah 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 blah. My name's Ryan, my name's Derek.
Solid impressions of us.
Ryan picked Coach. Coach went home, and too bad, too sad. I did not. I picked Emily last week, which means, if you're following along correctly, yes, that does mean that I am the winner, at least among the Castaway Consultants. I am the winner of the Survivor pool for this season. And I think that also means that I am back-to-back winners because I won last season as well. Now, we do have to shout out some of our listeners who did also end up going home this week. First off, shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Felicia. Bye, Felicia. I'm sorry. Shout out to EHS Luther. And then finally, shout out to Ben from YouTube. And an extra shout out from Ben because he did get my attention. He actually picked Emily on 2 separate weeks. So that is a disqualifier. Unfortunately, you are out. Thank you for playing, but play again next season. Now, for those still in, I am going to keep making my Survivor Pool picks because I want to see how many people I can be. We still have quite a few listeners in, and even though I am still the champion of the Castaway Consultants, I need to take down a lot of our listeners too. And I've got quite the hill to climb though, because I do only have 6 people left. I have Stephanie, Tiffany, Christian, Joe, Ozzy, and Devins. And I think I got to go big game hunting and take out some of the threats here before they get taken out themselves. So I'm going to go with Devins here. I think he'll, threat level is going to be on him really quickly. But I think that he's going to at least last one more vote. If someone from his direct alliance goes home, like I had mentioned, I think it's going to be Christian. So I'm going to burn Devins here and hope I don't get burned.
Out of curiosity, how many listeners are still in?
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, I believe, people left. So like I said, I got my work cut out for me still. Get your picks in, get your Lankdowns in, Survivor Pool picks, wherever you've been doing so, and keep playing.
I hope you all beat Josh. Okay, so I think we had 2 questions this week. So why don't we go ahead and get into our listener questions. So everybody else get your picks in, and get some questions in if you have them too.
Yeah, so first up, we have Berkey on Spotify, who asks, I might be repeating something you already covered, so apologies if that's the case, but I'm curious what you think about Tyson's idea of having all 17 players attend one Blood Moon tribal council with 3 consecutive vote outs, instead of splitting into separate tribes and challenges. It seems like an interesting twist. What's your take on it?
Well, we have done the thing before where we had we go to tribal council, somebody gets voted out, and then we immediately do another challenge, individual immunity, and then vote out a second person. So this would be similar, just adding a third one on. It could be interesting. It could be boring if we just get like 3 people in a row. Like if they know that, I guess it would depend. Do they know that ahead of time? Do we open a message in a bottle? How does it work? I think it could work, but it could also be boring.
Would it be back to back to back with challenges in between, or would it be where we have just 3 consecutive vote outs?
I think we have to have a challenge in between. I think we have to. I think that's fair. So I would say 2 tribal councils or 2 challenges at tribal council. We're going to spend 3/4 of the episode at tribal council. It's interesting.
I don't love the idea because to me, you need to give the players a chance to try and organize something. And I think if you do one, even if you go one challenge, one, there are too many iterations about what can go wrong, and then you have to handle it in a short period of time. You can't coordinate really anything there. Of course, that does make for chaotic gameplay, chaotic television, but I guess I don't want that much production-forced chaos at a pivotal point in the game. Now, Tyson saying 17 people. At 17 people, I mean, I guess, sure, fine, if we're going to do, like, One World again or something. But, like, post-merge, I don't like it there. So that's my thought.
I think what I would rather see instead is something we talked about a little bit, I think, last week, where maybe you have a double boot and it's the top 2 vote getters off of one single vote. I think that would be a little bit more fun than not really allowing people to have a reset here.
Sure. Thank you for the question. We got one more.
Yes, though. Thank you for that question. Next, we have Blake, who says, fun question. You can only choose from players who have returned at least once. Who would you want most as your partner versus who would you want least? Assuming you lose the challenge and aren't safe. For example, who do you think would tank your game along with them versus who would save yours?
Well, for a person I don't want was probably like a Russell Hantz. Someone with such a big target on their back that's like, let's take the shot, get them out. And oh no, I got brought down with them. So someone like Russell would probably be my number one, like least want. For most want, who's the most boring returning player of all time?
Sheehan?
Angelina. Angelina would be okay. Someone who is just like going to be under the radar. So I would say maybe like an Angelina.
So we have a giant pool of returning people here. So I wanted to look specifically at this season at Survivor 50 because I think, you would probably want to avoid Mount Rushmore people, for example. You pick any of them, and those would be people you would want to avoid. On this season, Suri is my number one. It's not even close. She's going to get targeted. I do believe that she will probably would have been targeted. But you never know with Suri, so she could have definitely been in danger tonight. As far as someone who I think could save my game, honestly, and kind of like what I was saying a little bit earlier in the podcast, where someone who wasn't on the same in the same alliance as me, someone who I'd be able to split up and maybe just not have a big target on my back because no one wants to have someone sacrificed from their team.
Well, I'm going to be just a complete homer about it. The person that I want most, if he was still alive, would be Keith Nell.
Aw, yeah, that's a good pick.
And the person who I would want least would be Tony Vlachos.
Yeah. It'd be fun, though.
Yeah.
Great question. Thank you again. I love having your questions. Guys, I think that wraps up this episode. This is a beast of an episode, but it was a beast of a twist. Anything else? Oh, God.
I think that this was actually a really exciting episode because it's not often that we get brand new strategy on Survivor, and we get to talk about all the different ways that people could be taking it and think about it and strategize based off of a new twist and a new mechanic in the game. So I think throughout this episode, I've become a little bit more interested in seeing it come back in future seasons, just because I want to see how people react differently with it. We've had much worse twists in the past, so if we would get something like this again, sub this out for the double boot at the merge where people are splitting up in tribes. I would definitely prefer to see something like this just to see how it works out again, now that people know that it exists out in Survivor. So super fun episode.
I think I like it even more after talking about it.
I do too.
Guys, social media.
Yeah, you can go follow us anywhere at Castaway Pod. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook is Castaway Consultants, and we have a website which is thecastawayconsultants.com.
And as a reminder, link downs are aggregated Tuesday, so if they come in, there's a later than Tuesday, so Wednesday, if you listen to the episode right before and there's a chance it doesn't make it in, that's okay. Don't change your listening schedule for the link downs, but just know that we're out here. And also, Rick Devens, if you're out there, whenever you are legally allowed to, please come back and talk to us again, because I want to talk about this fake idol.
All right, guys. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.